everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sippin On Country. Today in the studio we have Dariann Leigh. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you're an artist in Nashville.
Yeah.
I guess just tell us a little bit about your journey up to now. You know, where are you from? How did you end up in Music City?
Yeah, I'm from a very, 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 very small town in northern Minnesota, a stone's throw from the Canadian border.
Okay.
And I grew up using music as a tool to learn. I struggled a lot in school, so spelling words, math equations, all of it, had a cheer to it, had a melody to it. And I still, to this day, am someone where if a melody is to it, I have it memorized faster than I almost wish I did sometimes. And I really just dove into music when I turned about 15. I was like, I'm picking up a guitar. I want to learn how to accompany myself. And I started writing music. I was always writing music, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just writing things out and putting songs to it without even fathoming the idea of writing a song. Mm-hmm. And really, as soon as I went to college, I was like, I know this is what I want to do. But kind of tried to go the traditional route for a second. And was there and realized that it wasn't where I needed to be and moved to Nashville a few years ago.
That'll do it. Those creative minds never going to do well.
No, too structured.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
No.
I saw a video the other day of this guy and his wife, and he was like, when I lay down to go to sleep at night, he was like, my mind just shuts off and then does, I don't know, whatever it does that makes you dream. He was like, and my wife was like, the best that I can get is and I was like, oh, that's me.
Right. Or you randomly think of something that happened forever ago, and you're like, why did I just do that to myself?
I'm like, shut off, mine. No,
right.
What's
I don't
that?
need to think
know
about
how that works.
The first grade.
I just that thing that happened 10 years ago.
Right.
Like, what?
That no one else remembers.
Right. Just always on the go. It's always on the go.
Right.
So you moved to Nashville on your own?
With my boyfriend.
Okay.
Thankfully. I think it'd be really challenging on my own.
Yeah.
Could have done it, but...
Big move regardless.
Right.
You know,
right.
I mean, it's definitely not close to home.
Right.
I mean, how far away are you? Would you drive or fly?
I prefer to fly when I can. It is an 18-hour drive.
Yeah.
So it's a good day and a half drive. I've done it in a day, and it's miserable. It's too much.
I don't know that I could do that.
No.
Kudos to you for doing it. So growing up, were your family musical? Obviously you lean towards that, but did you grow up in a musical household?
Yeah, my family appreciates music and they listen to music. They're big music connoisseurs. My eldest brother is more musical, I would say. My parents played instruments and sang in choir, but they didn't dive into it.
Okay.
There is this odd line, and I say odd because we don't know where it came from. In my dad's side of the family, where several of us do sing, and several of us actually do sing for a living or just as a hobby. And I was with my aunt the other day, or my cousin the other day, that also sings. And we're like, where did this come from?
Just
who had
seemingly
this?
Appeared.
It really did.
Huh.
I have no idea where, but whoever it is, I'm grateful.
So somewhere along the lines, it's always kind of been in your blood with the music side of things.
Yeah.
And you picked Nashville, obviously country music.
Right. It's a given.
Did you grow up on country?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
All genres, really. I have 3 older brothers, so there was a large mix of all of the different genres, and my parents have different tastes, but very similar tastes at the same time. But everybody's taste was really surrounded in country music, so it was only natural for me to go towards country music.
It's the best. It's the best anyway, right?
It is.
Coming from the British person. So when you moved, had you been to Nashville before?
Yeah, I came back and forth for about 4 years, actually, before I moved. And the first time I came, I was super overwhelmed. Mind you, my hometown does not have a stoplight. I graduated one of 14 kids in my entire class.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So
this is where we figure out quite how small this town is. Wow.
Yeah, it's not like the stereotypical small town. Like, the closest Walmart is 40 minutes away, which is hysterical how we always classify our towns as small by how close we are to Walmart.
I mean, it's fair. I would say 3, but I actually think it's 4. Yep. I have 4 Walmarts within 15 minutes of each other.
Wow.
I can literally north, south, east, west.
Wow. I don't even know now. Yeah. I guess I moved here and there were so many options that I just stopped going to Walmart.
Right. You don't need Walmart anymore.
But super, super small. So you can imagine the shock going from
Right.
there to here. And I traveled a lot growing up, but this is still dramatically different.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in a very small area
Exactly.
here. You know, I mean, it's gone from a big town to a small city.
Right.
It feels like.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
So I get that would be overwhelming. Not only that, but I mean, you come here, you come here for music.
Right.
You walk into any bar down Broadway any time of the day, or you walk into any writers' round, and I mean the talent here is
insane.
It's wild.
It is.
Which is, I feel like, is great and like not so great at the same time, because I feel like you can walk in and then just be like, oh,
right.
like, what am I doing?
Right.
But at the same time, it challenges you every single day, because when you're going out and you're seeing these people performing, there is a standard here that you have to be able to meet or exceed.
It's true. It's true. And it is overwhelming walking into it. And that's how I felt, really, was walking into it, and exactly what you're explaining was how I felt. But I think it is that acceptance of being like, this is what I love, and I can do that too. I just have to work.
Right. And also, you don't have to be that person on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I feel like that can sometimes be hard to be like, that person's amazing.
Right.
I could never do that.
Right.
But also, you're not trying to be someone else.
Right.
So it's about finding and harnessing what you're best at.
Exactly.
So you moved to Nashville. After coming back and forth for 4 years, you finally decide, this is it. This is where I want to be.
Right.
Had you made contacts out here through that time?
Thankfully. I think that was really what made everything a lot less hard for me, was that I knew so many people here. I had my team here, many different people that I knew that write, producers, an entire photography and videography team. So,
nice.
And I say team, but these people are more like a family, because
right.
when I'm with people, it just becomes that, I guess, unintentionally.
Right.
But really, I think without that, it would have been such a struggle to come here not knowing anyone. And I give people that do that so many props, because it is so hard.
And people do, they do that every day.
All the time.
It's wild to move to not only have to adjust to a new city,
right.
but also be like, right, well, now I have to figure out who everyone is.
Right. And there's so many people that it can almost be overwhelming, because there are so many options.
Right.
Which sounds really bad, but it's so true. Like, there's so many different people that you can meet, and friends, and it's beautiful. Though,
and you never know who you're going to run into.
Exactly.
Either. You know, you could start talking to a bartender at a bar downtown, and they just happen to have, I don't know, their roommate is some like big time producer,
right.
or
it's crazy.
It's a wild town.
Right.
So do you write as well as?
Yeah, I write for myself, for other people, and then performing. They really go hand in hand for me, because I love both just as much as I love the other.
Right. And it's funny, because I was just talking with this about an earlier guest, is that they said when they came to town, which was back in the 90s,
right.
It was, do you want to be a songwriter or do you want to be an artist?
Right.
Like, why are we having to choose from this? Secondly, how do you choose from that? Like, you've just come to town, you know, maybe you're still figuring stuff out. To be like, I don't want to be an artist, I just want to write songs. But then go, I'm not going to write. I feel like now, in the times that we're in now with the music industry, I mean, they're one and the same.
They are.
They
Thankfully.
feel like, yeah.
I don't know how I would have handled somebody asking me that, because I would never want to give up one or the other.
Right.
I very much so survive and function by writing songs, and the other half of me is fulfilled by performing them. So I could not imagine.
And it's that creative outlet, you know, when you have that creative mind to just go, I'm not going to... I mean, I don't think I know anyone who would be like, I'm just not going to do that. No, that's not how this works.
No, thankfully.
So you moved to town, you've got all your contacts. When you were coming in those 4 years, I guess you were coming out, you were playing shows. And you're now playing down Broadway. Yeah. Right? So you have regular shows. Yeah. Which is going to be crazy summertime.
Busy season is upon us.
Was that your goal, moving here? You were like, I want to get down here, I want to get onto Broadway.
It really wasn't for me. For me, I wanted to be able to find shows and just travel and write as much music as I could. And the adult side of you very much so realizes your responsibilities really quickly.
Need to make money.
Exactly. You got to pay rent. Like, there are things that we have to do, and
Yeah.
that is one of them. But I love it. I feel like I'm able to see all the people that I might see if I were to have traveled around. Now, I do like to do tours, and I do like to travel. However, I think it's a huge advantage, and if you use it the way that it's intended to be for you, then you might be able to really take a big gain away from it. For some people, that's just what they want to do. For me, I would like to do that and graduate to something else.
Right. Well, I mean, I know, years ago when I started coming out here before I moved, I've got a lot of friends who were playing on Broadway, and talent scouts would come down and pick them up. And, for the last decade or whatnot, they've been on tour with major artists from playing down Broadway.
Right.
I think it's a good way to network as a musician, because although most people have their bands, people are interchangeable. Sometimes you can't, your guitarist can't make it, so now you need to find another guitarist, or your drummer's out, or someone's sick.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, well, now you've met this other drummer who actually, when they're not playing Broadway, they're on tour with this other person.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it all just rolls in.
It does. It does. It's perfect. It's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And
I think networking here is key.
It is.
Being here, being in front of people. Is that something that, like, comes naturally to you?
For the most part, I have to find the balance between the two, because I realized, like you're saying, you have to be available. And it's hard when you're busy to make yourself always available to that. And sometimes you just have to charge your battery. Like, you can't do it anymore. But I am a social person, so I know I have to do so much per week or I'll go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that can get tricky. So, I mean, speaking of that, you obviously moved after COVID happened. But I'm assuming you were still working on music back home.
Yeah.
When COVID was there.
Right.
I know you've got a pretty big social media following.
Thank you.
I mean, kind of tell us about how that started and building that up, because it's not easy.
No.
When you start from scratch to, 100 fans, there's going to be that first milestone. Can I hit that 100?
Right.
Can I hit the 1,000? Can I hit the 10,000?
Right.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about that kind of social media journey, I guess.
Yeah. I've had the same Instagram account since Instagram came out.
Nice.
Which is wild.
What year would that have been?
I was in high school when it became a thing.
Yeah, I don't want to say wild.
Which is wild.
Maybe like 2010, something like that.
Maybe a little bit later. I think a little bit later. I don't know. I'm just assuming.
Something like that.
But I really just started posting every single day, which when I got my Instagram account in, I guess some people call it middle school, I was literally posting as my New Year's resolution to post every single day for a year.
Okay.
Little did I know the prep that I was doing for what I literally do right now. And everyone was like, Dariann, you're literally posting photos of birds. And I was like, somebody likes to see it because somebody liked it.
Right.
And now it's literally what I do for a living and posting. And during COVID, it was just live stream everything and post it as a video. Or just anything you could do to connect with people was exactly what I was doing.
Right. And that's given independent artists now a much bigger platform to come out on, and you're reaching people that you would just never reach by playing a bar in Broadway or going, even, touring around the US. You're reaching people outside of America.
Right.
It is a worldwide platform, which
is wild.
It's absolutely insane. And I think when it comes to the music industry, I think there are pros and cons to that. I think that for younger artists like yourself, there are probably a lot more pros to it.
Yeah.
I think you're probably able to utilise it a bit more.
Right.
For older artists who, social media is not was not the thing.
Right.
It's probably a little harder and can maybe have some negative impact. I mean, how do you feel about, I guess, social media in the music industry?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is such a gift to have that many people in the palm of your hand whenever you post something. It is also really wild because I hear about how it was however long ago, or you're handing out CDs and I'm like, oh, that seems nice. You just cut your teeth by going around and giving people CDs, but it is a lot harder than that. And I realize that when people say it, like they say it and I'm like, oh man, I have to post. And I'm like, how lucky am I that I just get to go on my phone and the person that was handing CDs out forever ago, and it's the coolest thing to me.
Right.
That process is so fascinating. But now I just do it via my iPhone and TikTok and Instagram
Right.
and all of the other things.
And that post is free.
Exactly.
You're not having to pay
Mm-hmm.
to get sleeves, the little
Yeah.
plastic sleeves.
Yeah.
You get your CD. You'd either write on it with a marker,
Right.
or you'd like get sometimes you got them printed up.
Right.
You get your little sleeve, and then you have to. But then you also have to engage with every
Right.
single person.
Right. There isn't a
Whereas-
time to clock out.
Right. And it's a lot harder to reach the same amount of people, but handing out, physically being there is also a lot more personal.
Right.
You know, you're posting on TikTok, how many of your followers are seeing it come up in their feed and going, nope. You
Right.
know,
It's true.
there's, I mean, pros and cons to both
Yeah.
sides, but then you're getting the people that
Right.
are outside of the US that are going,
Right.
oh, here's this person I follow. They just put up another post.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're getting like real engagement
Right.
from just places you couldn't ever reach.
No, absolutely. And you didn't have to travel there to do it. You didn't have to, shaking hands and all that is not a bad thing.
Right.
You're being very personal with people, like we're
It
saying.
was a few
but
years ago.
it was a while ago. They had to get on a horse and buggy.
But yeah, I think it's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone has a different take on
Right.
it. And it's definitely interesting to me with the younger artists coming
Right.
up, because I mean, you know, you never knew that time before social media is
Yeah.
essentially always
always been here.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember, and this was quite a few years ago now, but I remember going into a bookstore and I saw this kid like walk over to this display and start doing this on a book. And I was like, no. Like, this is because they're just used to
Right.
opening an iPhone,
Right.
like unlock.
That's fine.
And it's crazy because there's a whole generation
Yeah.
where, I mean, for you, social media is it. That's all
It
it's
is,
ever
yeah.
been. If it wasn't Instagram, Facebook,
Right.
or, you know, not MySpace. You would not have
No,
been
I
around
knew
for
what
MySpace.
MySpace was, but I didn't have one. My siblings, I think, did, but
Yeah.
that was before me.
So even, you know, I had MySpace, which was the beginning of the downfall, I guess. Of social.
The beginning
we
of the
we
end.
love MySpace. We love Tom. But we're now in a world where people that are coming up now, that is the line of communication.
Right.
I mean, do you think it's impersonal?
I think sometimes. I'm still somebody that likes to put ink to paper and write people letters and like call people. And if you ask my little cousins what a phone is, they don't go like this, they go like this, and it freaks
Right.
me out. But maybe that's also just a part of where I'm from. Like I didn't have social media stuff for a while.
Right.
I kind of just discovered Instagram, and because it was new, my parents were like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Had they probably known what
The sort of stuff
it was going to become,
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't have let me have it.
Right.
But I also grew up like, put all the devices away, you're not watching TV, go play. So I feel like I kind of had the prime area of the differences between the
Right.
two.
where you got all of that technology, but
Right.
also the wherewithal to be like, we don't need it all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's very interesting how it's changing.
yeah.
So you obviously utilized it really well, and you've got a great following online.
you.
I mean, how has that translated into now playing shows on Broadway?
Right.
Do you feel like that following has helped? Like,
yeah,
because obviously everyone's in different locations.
Right,
You know,
right.
you could have 1,000 followers, but only one of them's in Nashville.
right. It's true.
But do you think that's helped getting out? Do you get a lot of people out to
Yeah.
see you? Have you found a following in
Right.
town now?
I've shockingly, and I guess I shouldn't say shockingly because I know my fan base and the people that follow me, and I like to call them friends because it feels like we're friends. There's a wild amount of people that come out randomly, and I'll recognize them, but not really. It's that weird, like, I know you, but I don't know you.
Yeah.
And they'll come up and, like, tell me their username, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen you on my comments or wherever it is, but also growing that because you're with people. And my favorite moments is playing the music, but it's also the talking in between songs because people really get to know you and you get to know them. And there's kind of that banter and you grow that fan base and the friendships with people so much more.
Right. And I think that's now even more coming out of COVID. I think people were just craving like contact, right? Like just sitting. I mean, this wouldn't have been possible.
No.
Which is, you know,
right.
Even 3-4 years ago,
right.
this wouldn't have been possible. And I think since we've come out of that and everything's opened back up and live music has started, people are craving that more than they ever were. And so I think to bring in that personality side and to talk and just communicate with people is a really great way to just bolster all of that.
Yeah.
So when you're playing on Broadway, you're predominantly playing covers. That is the Broadway way.
I like it. Took me a second, but I like it.
This is a song title there. The Broadway way.
It is.
Well, I'm gonna do it. So, do you ever throw in your own stuff?
Yeah, and you'd be shocked by the amount of people that come and want to hear your own things too. Yesterday when I was playing, there was a wild amount of people that were like, hey, play your original stuff. We want to hear what you guys write. And nice. I think we did probably nearly 5 each original songs. And that's out of 3 hours, which if you do the math, it's not as many. But when I'm playing opening act shows, I do like to sprinkle in covers because people know those. And maybe they're just being introduced to me. I don't want them to sit there and be like, this is great, but what is she saying? I don't know.
You want to be able to play that song that can get people engaged. Because rightly or wrongly, people engage with things they're familiar with, things that they know. And so if you're coming in with, hey, this is all my original stuff, people shut off. They do. I was a London busker for 2 years. And every now and then, it depends where I was busking, but if I'd managed to get a crowd, I would occasionally play an original song. Right. But for the most part, if I played an original track, I didn't get money for 3.5 minutes. Right. You know, I would have to watch people walking by and be like, they look like they'd like this song and play that. And then here you go, there I get my, however much I make in tips for that song. But it's very hard to keep people captivated when they don't know what it is.
It is. And they can appreciate it. And the same as you and I can listen to someone playing their original material. And we can appreciate it and love it. And heck, it might even get stuck in our head. But still, when they play the song, you know, you can't help but just groove with it.
With everyone, even for musicians, there is something about just hearing something, you know, the familiarity. And that's human nature, I think. So you mentioned about supporting. And, I mean, tell us a little bit about what you've got to do musically and be able to, I guess, who have you opened for? And
oh my gosh, the list is growing, which is so wild. Awesome. And it's such an honor. And every single time I go up and I'm like, I get to do this for a living. I'm hoping I don't miss anyone. I've opened for Jared Neiman, Joe Nichols, Big and Rich, Matt Stell, Mackenzie Porter. I'm definitely missing Daryl Worley, Tracy Bird. I'm missing 3 because it's been 10. It maybe has even been 12. But there's been quite a few, and it is wild.
You know what? The fact that you can't keep count is a good thing. It just shows how it shows how well you're doing with getting your name out there.
Thank you.
And of those shows, what sort of shows have they been? Have they been local?
Yeah, so a lot of them have been in the Midwest area where I'm from, and it's just go out, play the original stuff, play a few covers here and there, and make as many friends as we can. Right.
I mean, what's that like, knowing that, you know, you're there, you are this, ultimately, you are warming up the crowd for that main act to come on, and you get to share the same stage as these people who've been in the industry for years and have all of this wealth and knowledge. I mean, have you been able to sit down and speak with any of them and kind of really take in what they have to offer?
Yeah, there's been a few of them that I've been able to talk to, and even seeing them since randomly at a grocery store, which nobody ever expects, but it happens.
Welcome to Nashville.
Or I've seen them at industry events. And Joe Nichols said something to me that I really, really struck a chord with. And he said that when, I believe it was Broken Heartsville, went big on radio, he was playing at Honky Tonk Central. And a lot of the times people kind of have this poor notation about people that do play downtown because we're playing other people's songs. But I think you're also cutting your teeth in perfecting your craft. And so hearing from him, somebody who's found so much success, explain how he was there when he was also doing these huge things was really, really cool.
Right. Well, I think that as you play other people's songs, there are a lot of people, you're right, that I think put a negative connotation to that. But in reality, you're playing all the hits, right?
Right.
You are playing all the songs that probably hit number 1 or at least hit top 10.
Right.
And so every time you play them, you're just taking in a little more of that song and going, hey, this is what people like.
Right.
And I feel like over time, you start breaking those songs down.
Right.
And surely that can only help because you're learning all of the things that make a hit song to then take away and go, well, you know, when a song does this or when we have this, that's what people love to hear. And you're getting a live audience reaction.
Right. That's so true. That's a great way to see it.
I try.
I love it. Great job.
So out and about and touring, and you have music out.
Yeah.
So where can people find that music? What have you got right now?
Yeah, on all streaming platforms. My name is hard to spell, so I normally tell people there's only one of me, so you have better odds at finding me.
There you go.
But I have a bunch of songs on Spotify right now. I have 4 songs slated for this summer, starting at the very end of this month, and then going all the way till fall. The next song that I have out, actually, ironically enough, speaking about Broadway, is called Bury Me on Broadway.
Okay.
And I just heard so many times not to get stuck. And I think it almost came from a little bit of a space of like, don't get stuck. And I like came up with it driving home one day. And I was like, but there's so much beauty in this. And this is also a story that I know if people heard the song, 'cause the song has nothing to do with that, really. It's more about like someone's experience when they come into town, and what you imagine that might be like. And really everything that goes around with that. But the hook did come from me being like, everybody tells me not to get stuck. So
I mean, I feel like it's easy to do in anything, but I can see where ending up on Broadway and going, well, because once you get, I think once you get those consistent shows, you're getting a decent income.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that becomes the norm.
Right.
And then you'd have to break away from that again.
Right. You have to challenge yourself.
Yeah. So I 100% see how people could just end up stuck in a little bit of a rut.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest thing is just challenging yourself. And that's why I still write just as often as I probably would if I didn't play downtown. And I travel and I do shows, and I always view it as like the home base where people come to me to watch the shows, and when I go, it's me coming to them to extend my hand and being like, we're here, let's do this in your hometown. And I think it's more fun that way almost too, because people get to see you in very different lights. Because when I come to their hometown, let's play some original songs. Let's throw in all the stuff I've been working on all year long.
All the stuff that I can't play on Broadway because, again, that whole thing of keeping people captivated. Right. But obviously once people are in it, and if people are coming out specifically to see you, then you know that they want to see that. Right. But in all reality, the majority of people on Broadway, even if there's a handful of people that are there for you, the rest of them are just there drinking. And they want a song they can sing along to.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. I want the same thing. Thankfully, they are very supportive of us playing our own material. You just have to piece it in at the right times. And I
don't do a whole 20-minute set of originals. But I've definitely noticed that more and more now.
It's cool.
Which I'm really glad, because I think that for a while, the covers thing was so intense. And it's Nashville, right? Like it is Music City, and it's wild that people would not want to come here and experience original music. Right. And sometimes, I guess part of me wonders, do they not want to experience it because they just don't think they're going to get it, because that's how Nashville's conditioned them? Or do they really not want to experience it? Because I feel like they've almost been conditioned to like, well, we go down Broadway, it's not original.
I mean, You would be amazed by the amount of people that ask me if I'm going to be discovered downtown. Like, that is still, I think, the prime belief by people when they come in. They just want to see wild talent, and they're on the right street to get it.
Oh, 100%.
And I feel like I came into downtown at a really, really good time where that transition had already been made. I honestly feel like I've learned so much. It's been like a crash course of who are you as a performer, who are you even as a songwriter if it doesn't always reflect. And who are you as a person, really? Like, what's your entertainment? Who is your band? Who are the people that you want on stage with you? And what does your show look like, and where's your energy?
Right. And
it's been such a great crash course for me. Honestly, I don't even know if I'd be half the performer that I am now if I hadn't gone on Broadway.
That makes and I totally get that, because I think that, I think there are things you can only learn about yourself from being in front of people and playing. But I mean, all of that as well is that ultimately, as an independent artist now, even with representation,
right,
you have to be everything. You have to do everything. No one can jump onto your Instagram account and be like, "Hey, this is Dariann." Like, no one cares if I come on there. They're following because of you, not because of your manager that's going to go, "Oh yeah, she's doing this."
Right,
you know.
Right.
So all of a sudden, you have to wear all these different hats, and really build like your brand. You are, I feel like, as an artist, that you almost become like a product. You are something to, rightly or wrongly, it kind of sounds a bit crappy. I get what you mean. But as much as you are going out and being you, figuring out all those little things is part of how you sell yourself.
Right.
If a label comes around and they're like, "Hey, we want to speak to you about a record deal," what do you have for them? And you have to be able to go this.
Right.
Because if you can't answer their questions, if you can't say songwriter or artist,
right,
then they're just going to move on to the next person, because there's plenty of people here all looking for the same thing, playing at a really high caliber. So, I mean, for you, how do you see for yourself that you kind of how do you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, I think that I've always understood music as the thing that connects people. And it's not that other people do not, but I genuinely feel like every single room I strike a chord in, I've connected to as many people as are willing to connect to me. And I think really all we want as humans is to be seen, loved, and validated. And in that moment with a song, whether it's sad, happy, energetic, or who knows what, there's so many different feelings. When you've connected to someone, that is the biggest thing that you can take away from a show. And all the great shows that I've been to, I've literally felt like they were singing to me. And I always want people to feel like I took the second to connect with them and I was singing to them and we're now friends. And I can always say that I have this community backing that will show up and will buy the songs, will purchase the merch, will do whatever. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, that's all we want as musicians. And I think for labels, they see that you've put in the legwork and you've done what you needed to do for them to be like, all right, check these boxes, let's roll.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's definitely getting harder, because I think it's becoming, I don't know if easier is probably not the word, but there's just so many avenues to, you want to get to this point.
Yeah.
Well, you don't just have to go from A to B now. Now you can go from C to B or D to B or E to, like, there's a million different paths to take to that one thing. Whereas, a few decades ago, it was it. You did this, you did that, and then you got your label, you got your record deal. It was it was a lot more structured.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's a lot more flow to what you can do to achieve your goal, which again, I think pros and cons.
Yeah.
Because it also makes it hard for artists coming up and going, well, this is what I want to do. How do I do it?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, you could do this, or you could do that. Yeah. Or maybe if you want, you could do this.
Right.
Then by next week, the goalposts will change. So then you'll have to do something else.
And nowadays, it's what's the algorithm?
Yeah.
What time do I make my post? And that is still something that I'm always like, I'm reading this and I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding it, but I am a little bit lost. But I think there's advantages and disadvantages to it, and there's no clear-cut path. Like you're saying, my book could look entirely different than somebody else's book, and that's entirely different from everybody else's.
And the ending might still be all the same.
Exactly.
it's it's a wild industry. I mean, for you, is there anything particularly about the journey that I guess you have to do but that you really wish you didn't?
Oh, geez. I think some of it is like the emotional toll. Like the sacrifices that you make to be able to go on tour or to live so far away from your family. If money wasn't a factor, I'd be flying back and forth and not missing my niece's second birthday and being there for different things. And I've had, unfortunately, like family members pass away since moving. And I think realizing how short time is and the emotional toll of the sacrifices that you make to hopefully end up at this end goal is one of the things that if I could do without that and be in two places at once, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that mental and emotional toll. I think is a lot of what people don't see.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you get out on stage, you are the best version of yourself, right? This is all you want to do.
Right.
You want to get out, you want to play, you want to sing your songs, and people see that, but they don't see off stage.
Right.
You know, like, how did you get to that show? What did you miss?
Right.
You know,
it's true.
Did the label say, hey, we're going to send a scout out to this show, so you just missed a milestone birthday for someone, and then no one shows up to the show because they go, sorry, we couldn't send someone out.
Right. And those things happen.
And you can't get those moments back.
No.
These are things you have to be willing to give up a lot and deal with a lot in order to chase an outcome that is also very slim. Know. Like it's so wild, but I think if you can have the perseverance and that determination to be here and just, you know, walk that line, and I mean, you'll do it. Right. Eventually.
It just takes time.
There's also no timeline, you know. Someone could scout you tomorrow. It could take another 5 years.
It could, yeah.
I mean, they say Nashville is a 10-year town.
Right.
So, I mean, when did you move?
I'm nearly 3 years in. 3 years. So I've hardly cut the edge off. We're just getting started.
7 years to go, then we'll see.
This cake is still really big.
Yeah, it's a very crazy industry with everything changes daily. But let's talk about CMT.
Yeah.
So you had a music video on CMT.
It's wild. I think I just scooted over.
Oh, you're
Here
fine.
we go. I'm just wheeling away.
Let's talk a bit about that. I mean, how did that come about? The whole process of even just, you know, you've got your music video.
Right.
At what point do you go, hey, they're about to play it on CMT?
Oh, it's absurd. It's another one of those times where I'm like, this is what I'm doing for a living, and this is what I get to clock in at, that I don't have anything that I actually clock in and clock out of. I actually was with CMT this last summer, and I showed them most of these songs, and a few of them I didn't actually have written at that point. So between, I believe it was June of last year and now nearly June, there was some like tough songs that we were really just like, let's get to work and write these songs. Things that I knew were in my head, but we just hadn't said it yet. And it's funny because all of the songs that I really, really would have wanted them to hear, I was like, hadn't even written them yet, like I was saying. But we played them, all the songs at the moment that I was like, this is what I'm about to do. Like, these are what are coming. And I played them for them, and we're like, we also have this music video for the song that you've been supporting. Let us know what you want to do.
Right.
And they were all so, so, so sweet. And it was really just like a big little group hang where I just play songs and we talk about who knows what in between, and then we're back to the songs. And I messaged my PR and I was like, let me know what date we're kind of thinking, and if we can get something with them, that would be what I would rather make this date for. And she messaged me and was like, they're ready to go whenever you're ready to go. And I was like, say less. Let's do it. Yesterday.
That's awesome to sit there and watch your video on, I mean, like, CMT.
It's absurd.
Yeah,
it's absurd. The first time, so they've been so gracious and so supportive of me. This is, I think, the third video of mine that they've taken, third or fourth actually, and this time it almost felt even more because I was like, they've chosen to go out of their way, out of all of the many options that they have, and chose to give me that piece of the pie and a little bit of this time. The first time I was like running around my parents' house losing my mind. So I was like, this is absurd. Why is this happening and how did I get here? But this time it was really just this wholesome feeling of being like, these people have gone out of their way and chose me. And that's wild, and I want to keep proving myself to them and to everyone, and also to myself, proving to myself that I am capable and worthy of these things.
It's always nice to get that bit of recognition for all your hard work, because I feel like that's something that doesn't happen a huge amount in this industry. You know, you work and work and work for very little most of the time.
And you're on to the next thing so fast where you're like, I don't even feel like I survived in between that. Like, I don't remember what happened.
So to have a company like CMT have your back is pretty freaking cool.
It's so cool. It makes me feel too cool. I'm like, I'm not actually that cool. What is going on?
Okay, so today is the start of CMA Fest.
Yeah.
And you are going to be around over the next 4 days. So you're going to be playing downtown. Do you know where you're going to be playing?
I'm going to be at Casa Rosa that Thursday, so today, and I don't know if I can say yet where I am Saturday, but it'll be on my website, all of my social medias, all of those things.
You are going to be doing some signings over the weekend.
Yeah, we'll be at Fanfare, and then there's a few shows, so plenty of opportunities to see enough of my face.
Do you have the times for when you're signing yet?
I don't yet.
So I know CMA have got their app, so you can just head over to the app, search Dariann Leigh. It is Dariann.
Right on the money.
Leigh.
Look at her go.
Guys.
It's hard. It's so hard.
I really try my best here. Search that on the CMA app, and that will let you know anywhere that she's appearing over the weekend. And I'm going to make sure that I link to all of this so people can go check her out. Guys, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz, Facebook, we'll make sure we link to everything. But dates are going to be up, so please, if you are in town, head out down Broadway and check Dariann out.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that we have everything there. So if people want to buy your music, buy music. This is how I'm ending all of my podcasts now, guys, which you are going to realise from the last few episodes. Buy music. Do not, well, no, you can stream. But if you stream, also buy music. I'm not going to stop you from streaming. But please, this is where the money comes for these guys. Rather than 0.02 of a penny every time you hit play on Spotify, they can actually get a real income. And the money and the time it takes to put this stuff together is insane.
Yeah.
So buy tickets for shows. Go out, see live music. Go down Broadway, tip the hell out of her.
Thank you.
And make sure you are buying that merch.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming in. Everyone, we're going to be back next week with a brand new episode. We have a ton of awesome guests on their way. Dariann Leigh, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And come to Fanfare. I'll be there too.
Recorded at 2300 Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Original theme music by Gary Wood.